Okay, we are calling to order the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District Special Meeting on Tuesday, October 20th, 2018 at 6:34 p.m. Please, 6:34. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call please.
Okay. Call to order. Chairman McNerney.
Present.
Vice Chair Reed.
Here.
Director Whip.
Here.
Director Logan.
Here.
Director Marshall.
Here.
Okay, item number 2, public expression of non-agendized items. There is no one in the audience except for Scotty, our camera guy. Scotty, anything from you? Okay. If anyone shows up, we'll open it up again for him. Okay, item number 3, discussion and possible action regarding engagement letter from Clifton Larson Allen to prepare district financial statements for potential bond refinancing. And the floor is now yours.
Thank you.
District Manager Dave.
Mark looks to watch that.
Mark, your name's, Whip's kind of difficult, but you got me beat.
Yeah, it was tough in first grade, that's why.
Yeah, really. There's that many letters in the alphabet?
Yeah. If in doubt, just buy a vowel. So, this special meeting is to see if the board wants to consider and then possibly approve the engagement letter from Clifton Larson and Allen. The first document that I passed out is the assessment letter that they promised us that they would do. This letter was an engagement with them to go in and make a determination to what documents and they would need to compile our financial statements and from what parties they would get those documents. I think that the highlight of this was they did set up a portal. I've been giving them documents, downloading them, but they came over, Jeff Peak, who was the principal in charge from Clifton, came over, excuse me, and we sat down with Dan Buffalo and Lee Halverson at the city, had a good meeting with them, probably for an hour and a half, 2 hours. They talked about the documents that they would need, the source documents. The city was very cooperative in their attitude to provide this for to Jeff Peak and to CLA, especially as far back as it goes. They're on a new system now. Some of the documents from the old system may be a little more difficult to pull up, but nonetheless, happy to report the attitude was one of cooperation and working together. They, Clifton, has an engagement already with the county of Mendocino. They work with them, so they know what the documentations are and the information that they can get from them. We have a responsibility in the district to take the checks that we've issued to Bank of America, the Savings Bank, as well as Petty Cash, to put that all together by those fiscal years and be able to provide those documents as well as those amounts. Yes, sir.
I have a question on the bond refinancing.
Yes.
You know, we have bond counsel has been in discussion with the bond issuers about whether they would be, what financial data they'll need. Is it 5 years, audited statements, is that?
So to be determined. There's been numerous conversations about if compilations will make it, or if they'll need to be audited, or some portion of those 5 years would be audited and compilations for the balance. And I can get into that a little further down the road, or I can address it.
No, go. I didn't know if that was coming up, so.
That's coming up.
Okay.
It's coming up, and then the other person, they might have to obtain some information from other district advisors, which would be some of the attorneys and forensic accountants that were used during the lawsuit, because they may have some information, some documents that would be good for the audit. A couple potential areas for a roadblock. Mentioned here investment in joint ventures. Make sure that there's a determination there if they can find a good number. That was one of the reasons, it was a qualified opinion. I think we can work something out as this letter indicated, and then also making sure that we have a good number for capital assets going forward, and then working that through and make sure that all of those are captured. And the last piece would be these external banking transactions. We just have the bank statements from B of A. They might just say check number and not tell you exactly what it was for, but we'll try to find that out. Yes, sir.
Okay, investment in joint venture. Well, it is unclear if the language of the district settlement agreement with the city of Ukiah will define what the value of the participation agreement will be going forward. And what's that statement mean? Is it the monetary value?
Yeah, the monetary value, but each party will carry on their own books as the investment into this joint venture. So they will look at what's on the books now, and then they will look at the settlement and make sure that each party's balances, the funds, the dollars that they have are that they can justify those with an audit determination.
Okay.
And then the timeline. So their deliverables, which are on page 2-8, the delivery schedule would be October 1st, today's the 2nd, so I told Jeff, so we're on that. Through the 31st, they believe that they would be able to get the compiled financial statements put together with preliminary footnotes, and that they would be able to organize them and get them presented by the end of November. So to Ernie's question earlier, this will come up to the timeline. If we don't need audited statements for the bonds, I think we'll need them at least for a few years back for some of the state regulatory years that we've missed. However, those audits could be done at a different time and not impact, I think, the bond financing if they took compilations, right? Which would make those audits probably a little less expensive. We could do it in a more orderly fashion. This is a busy time of year. You wouldn't be trying to jam the preparation of the financial statements with the audits. If we do need audited statements for the bond refinancing, which we'll need those audited statements, perhaps going backwards as well. In anticipation of that, I've contacted 4 different CPA firms to see if they were available or interested in doing the audit, which they would get the work papers from CLA. 2 of them are in Sacramento, one's in Pleasanton, and the 4th is the city's auditors. And I had that conversation with them today.
And they're based in?
And they're in Southern California.
Okay.
In Southern California. So the idea would be to get 4 proposals, or 3 proposals if they decide to do it. And in those proposals, provide 2 scenarios. A scenario to audit the statements to meet the bond financing if it needs to be done in December, and a scenario to do these audits in sort of a more orderly fashion over a period of time. And so far, 2 of the firms have shown interest, and I think more importantly, they have the expertise. They work with municipalities and special districts, and they also have the capacity. It's a tight market out there for accountants. And so finding firms that have the capacity and the horsepower to get these things done in this time frame is, I think, one of the drivers that we have.
Which were the 2 that were interested?
So the city auditors are with them today. These are preliminary conversations.
That was actually the question, okay.
Yeah, and then there was one over in Mendocino and Nelson over in the Sacramento area. Okay. All of them have, as I said, special district, and both firms have clients in Lake and Mendocino County, so they're not unfamiliar with folks up here.
Now, Mark, are these bonds tax-free? Are they like a tax-free muni bond? When you buy them, if the investors buy them?
I believe they are, but you know, frankly, I haven't even looked at the bonds. So
I
can't
haven't
answer.
asked that
Yeah.
question before. I mean,
Yeah,
what entices someone to buy them at,
yeah,
at the rate that they're talking about refinancing at,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, as embarrassed to say, I don't know that, we just focused on getting the financials together for the bonds themselves.
When will we find
You know,
out
the tax-free bond returning.
what's required for a bond?
Your ROI on it would be pretty low.
Let's have one person speak at a time, please.
So I'm hoping that we'll find out in a couple of weeks, right? Because the longer.
What was
it
the
goes-
question?
The question was, when would we find out if we needed the statements audited? I think, Julie, that was the question, if I understood.
For the bond refinance?
Yeah, so I've been asking our advisor and our auditors that very question. They understand what the time constraints are, so I'm hoping that we'll find this out in the next couple of weeks at the latest, right? I think if CLA, if you vote to have them do it, one thing that I think all the parties I've talked to are that they're a well-known firm and they know the work product that they'll get, and I think that's a positive thing from them. But yeah, no, time is of the essence, and the longer this stuff goes, you know, this whole bond refinance is going to be, you know, I think it has a risk to it. It's not just an automatic thing where you go put this together and then you get to sell the bonds. So I think we need to be
So
clear.
this
about that.
needs to happen regardless of the bonds.
Well, in some form or fashion, yeah, we need to get financial statements together, and in some form or fashion, some of those years will probably have to be audited. We'd like to reduce the number of years audited, and that's an additional cost of the cost that you see here. But that is yet to be determined. And as I said, what we need for the bonds, we'll need all these financials compiled regardless, and that has to be done.
So if the audits are required, this firm can't do them, is that because they?
You can't audit your own work product.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, you can do, there's reviewed statements and compilations, and the firm can do those, and they can present those reviewed statements, typically no footnotes, compilations, footnotes, and they just say, yeah, that they were an interested party and put it together. But to offer an audit opinion, you cannot audit your own work, so you have to have another CPA firm come in and audit those work papers. Typically, in some places, you have your own accountants, and you put together the work papers, and you don't have the second step. That just doesn't exist here at the district. That's why we have one CPA firm, one accounting firm, putting the preparation of the financial statements together with footnotes, and then then we would have another one perform the audit.
But it would appear to me that if they have everything in order, the auditors, it shouldn't take a lot of work because they're just like checking their work and
Right.
everything's all compiled for them.
Yeah,
So
but it's, what auditors will come in and do though is they want to do their own tests. And where the time is consuming often is an on-site visit, is they're going to want to go pull source documents. So they're going to say, gee, I want to see those invoices for revenue, I want to see those APs. Often they take random samples, you don't know, I mean, that's the whole idea, so that there isn't those surprises. So the time is often in pulling the source documents and then reviewing those documents and tying them out. You know, I'm not sure how it would work if they did a couple of years at a time. It should save some costs, right? Because you're going to be pulling this, you're going to have the same schedule, you're just pulling different years. And so it's not like you're coming back for each year. Hopefully you will make one site visit and it will allow you to do a couple of years. So I think there's some scale that's available if they have to do it that way. But yes.
Question?
Sure.
So moving forward, once we get past this,
Right.
moving forward, do you think how the district will be running, we will be able to compile our district manager, whomever that may be, would be able to compile all of the financials in order to just hire an auditor? Or do you think we will need to every year hire someone to compile financials?
I think you're going to need someone every year to put those together, because you're going to have the same issue, right? You're going to have all these financial documents from the city, you're going to have the financial documents from the county, and then stuff there is. Unless that person knows how to assemble this stuff in Gap in the format and knows what documents they'll be looking for, I think it would be hard to find that in a district manager.
Okay.
It's not to say that you can't greatly reduce cost if you know what the program is, and that if you do your books monthly and look at them quarterly, that you can have a lot of this information, because you'll just take the prior year's audit schedule for those documents and those things that they need, and you'll just make sure that you keep those, that you have them when you're tying this stuff out. So you can do a lot.
Okay.
Well, and I think the next time we hire somebody to do this, it's not gonna be, 70,000 because of.
No, it'll be
contracts, so-
1 year.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, it'll come down, and you'll have a program in place, right? And it's all, like everything else, these things get front-loaded because they don't know. You're pulling documents, you're not sure what's there, you don't know what format they're particularly in, and you kind of have to go through that, and then you understand, and then good auditors will give you recommendations of how to do things. Some will tell you to do, but how to do things and kind of prepare so that at year end, it's not kind of a Chinese fire drill. You're organized and ready
Fix
to
the
go.
roof when it leaks.
Well, if we do our own billing and collections, that would simplify this process immensely. Because then we would have our own set of books and make the payments to the city as required, right? So, I mean, I think,
Sure, you'd be all in-house, and then you would have your own, whatever general ledger system you had, to use that to record everything, and whatever, and however you wanted to do it.
Would we be able to put a cap, because they have an estimate of 70,000, but there's a lot on here that's saying that it's not included in that estimate, so would we be able to say up to a certain number? Because, I mean,
I
do we
understand.
want to stop it before it crept up?
No, well, I guess what I would do, is I don't know if you could put a cap on it, because they haven't seen the information. I think they tried to build I believe they tried to build in enough, more than enough to take care of it. But it's simple. I could ask them that as part of this agreement that, that if they get to, let's say, 50,000, if they look like they're going way over, that they at least give us a heads up and we can decide. I mean, you're going to get into this and you're going to need it at one point. But I don't mind asking them for some sort of early warning system, if you
I think that's the best way to approach it.
And what did we budget for this in our budget we just passed?
70,000 for this portion of it.
For this portion.
And then we put in the budget, it was approved $50,000 was a placeholder for the audits. I'm figuring $10,000 for 5 years, $10,000 a year. And then there is money in the budget for some support in those type of things. So there's money in there, hopefully, I think what the budget has.
So I think the whole
It's pretty
board
close.
agrees that if you could keep an eye on the cost and maybe
Oh,
when
sure.
they get to 50, have them let you know. You can-
Yeah, and they're gonna invoice.
I mean, if
yeah.
they say we're only 25% done and we're at 50,000.
Right, we need to look at it, but then again.
You'd have to do a budget amendment.
Yeah. Once you
So-
get that far into it too, it's like, well, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to know.
Right.
I think, yeah, I understand. I think, probably in all fairness, because it would be one thing, I think, if we had audits before, and we kind of knew, and we said, look, folks have been doing this for X, so we'd like you to fix that price. This is just sort of unknown, but I believe they're a good firm and a quality firm and firm with the trade. And they spent a lot of time on this letter. And I think going to this assessment approach instead of just jumping in was a prudent thing to do, both for the district and for them, so that they really understood. I think they have a very good idea.
Do they have you call it a ledger system?
A general ledger, just
General ledger.
like QuickBooks, but
Right.
I suspect it would be QuickBooks, but you might
Yeah.
have a third-party billing and collection system that you would bolt onto your general ledger.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a couple ways to do it. You can outsource that and still control it, or you can have it in-house and, you just have the software yourself.
That's a whole nother stuff.
That's another
So
conversation.
we're gonna have to get some proposals on both methods.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
really want to go out with RFPs for that, because you
Yeah.
have the time and you can do it, and you can just evaluate what's the best way and who to do it. Yeah. So if there's no, and then there is the engagement itself, and that's what would, if you decide to make a motion and you approve it, then the chair would sign it, and I would inform CLA tomorrow that they're good to go.
Are there any more questions? If not, Vice Chair, are you about to say something?
No, just a motion.
Okay, go for it.
I move to accept the engagement letter with CLA to move forward with getting our financial documents in order, with the request that once we've reached $50,000 in spending, that we check in.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second for the, authorize the chair to sign the engagement letter with CLA
Yes,
for the $50,000 check-in.
with the check-in, 50K check-in.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, none?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Passes
you.
unanimously. And that is it. Our next meeting is, yes?
Could I
Dr. Bachman.
ask for an agenda item for the regular meeting in 2 weeks?
Sure.
Next week,
A week from Monday.
a week from Wednesday?
The 10th.
10th. So I would just like to address the hiring of a district manager and possibly, just talking about the timing, because Mark's kind of right in the middle of this transition, and just to talk about where we're going to go with hiring someone and how long that he'll be staying on and that sort of thing.
Can you condense that into a one line for me, and I'll put it on Chelsea's desk tomorrow?
Yeah,
Review.
discussion on the interim district manager and,
How about a district manager position?
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
so that encompasses everything?
yeah, and we'll talk
Okay.
about Mark and then the new people and
Okay.
we'll encompass all that. Yeah, that's what
Your transition,
Transition.
you're in transition.
No,
Right.
State transition.
Are there any other items from any of the directors? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned at 6:56. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this was a good decision by the board.